The stars shone bright against the void of space as the medical frigate UES Nightingale cruised toward Mars Colony. Inside the bridge, Commander Jack Bailey looked over the ship's diagnostics one more time. The Nightingale wasn't built for combat. Its white hull with red crosses made that clear to anyone who saw it. The ship's real purpose was saving lives. "Supply check complete, Commander," said Lieutenant Samantha Cruz from her station. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her uniform was crisp and clean. "We have all the medical supplies Mars Colony requested." "Good work, Lieutenant," Jack said with a nod. He ran a hand through his short brown hair and smiled at his chief medical officer. "Should be a routine trip, just how I like them." The bridge crew went about their tasks, the gentle hum of the ship's engines a comforting background noise. Engineer Alan Murphy monitored the propulsion systems while Communications Officer Lisa Grant kept an eye on incoming transmissions. Samantha walked over to the main viewport and looked out at Earth, growing smaller behind them. 5 years as a combat medic had taught her to enjoy peaceful moments like these. Too often, her medical skills were needed in the chaos of battle. "Commander," Lisa called suddenly, her voice tight with concern. "I'm picking up unusual energy readings near Jupiter." Jack frowned and moved to her station. "Natural phenomenon." "No, sir. The pattern is too regular." Lisa's fingers flew over her console. "Wait. More readings appearing now, moving fast toward Earth orbit." The ship's alert system activated, bathing the bridge in pulsing red light. Jack straightened, years of training kicking in. "All hands to alert stations," he ordered calmly. "Murphy, prepare for emergency maneuvers." On the main screen, objects appeared near Earth, strange ships with smooth, curved hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with impossible speed, their formation precise and threatening. 17 vessels, Lisa reported. Unknown configuration. "They're not responding to standard hails." "Keep trying all frequencies," Jack ordered. "Cruz, alert medical to prepare for possible casualties." Samantha nodded grimly and moved to her station. She had a bad feeling about this. Without warning, beams of intense blue light shot from the alien vessels, striking Earth's surface. Even from their distance, the crew could see the devastating impacts. "They're attacking major cities," Lisa whispered in horror. "New York, London, Beijing." "Send emergency signals to Earth Defense Command," Jack ordered, his voice steady despite the situation. "Murphy, get us back to Earth at maximum speed." Before they could act, the ship's communication system activated with an incoming message. The main screen showed a being unlike any human had seen before. Its skin was pale purple, with ridges where eyebrows would be on a human. 4 dark eyes blinked independently of each other, and when it spoke, a row of sharp teeth flashed. "Primitive humans," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. "I am General Zathkor of the Verkarian Empire. Your planet has been chosen to demonstrate our power to the galaxy. Resistance is pointless." Jack stepped forward. "This is Commander Bailey of the United Earth Defense Force. We have no quarrel with your people. Please cease your attack so we can talk peacefully." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "There is nothing to discuss. Your species will be remembered as an example of what happens to those who have not earned their place among the stars." The transmission ended abruptly. Moments later, the ship's sensors detected more energy weapons firing toward Earth. "Commander," Lisa called out, "incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command." A grim-faced admiral appeared on screen. "All medical vessels are to retreat immediately. You are carrying supplies we cannot lose, and your medical capabilities will be needed. Fall back to the dark side of the moon and await further orders." Jack wanted to protest, to say they should stay and fight, but he knew his duty. The Nightingale wasn't a warship. They would be more useful saving the wounded than becoming casualties themselves. "Understood, Admiral," he replied, then turned to his crew. "Murphy, set course for the dark side of the moon, maximum speed. Crews, prepare medical bay for incoming wounded. This isn't a retreat. It's a strategic repositioning. As the Nightingale changed course, Jack watched more alien ships appear in Earth orbit. Somehow, he knew that humanity's survival would depend on what they did next. The UES Nightingale moved silently through space, its engines dimmed to avoid detection. The dark side of the moon offered some protection from the alien vessels that now surrounded Earth. Inside the medical bay, Lieutenant Samantha Cruz worked quickly, preparing for the wounded who would soon arrive. "We need more trauma kits," she told the medical staff around her. Though her voice was calm, her eyes betrayed her worry. "And check our blood supplies. We'll need all types." The ship shuddered as a small transport vessel docked. Moments later, the doors slid open and the first wave of injured soldiers and civilians arrived. Some walked with help, others were carried on stretchers. Their wounds told the story of the battle raging around Earth. "First-degree burns, possible internal bleeding," Samantha said, examining a young soldier whose uniform was torn and bloody. "Get him to Station 3. On the bridge, Commander Jack Bailey watched Earth on the main screen. Blue flashes lit up the planet's night side as the aliens continued their attack. His hands gripped the command console tightly. "Any word from Earth Defense Command?" he asked. Lisa shook her head. "Communications are spotty, sir. The aliens are jamming most frequencies." Jack rubbed his tired eyes. They had been hiding for 6 hours, watching their homeworld under attack, while treating the few wounded who managed to reach them. It wasn't enough. They needed to do more. "Murphy, status on the other medical ships?" he asked. Alan Murphy looked up from his console. 3 have made it to the rendezvous point. 2 others are reported destroyed." The news hit the bridge crew hard. Medical vessels were supposed to be protected, not targeted. These aliens played by different rules. "Commander," Lisa called suddenly, "I've patched into a secure channel. It's Admiral Chen." The main screen showed the Admiral, his uniform dusty and torn. Behind him, people ran back and forth in what looked like an underground bunker. "Bailey, glad to see the Nightingale made it," Admiral Chen said. "The situation is worse than we thought. The Vicarians have superior technology and numbers. Our main fleet is engaged, but taking heavy losses." "What are your orders, sir?" Jack asked. "We're ready to help however we can." The Admiral's face grew grim. "Our intelligence suggests the aliens don't understand our military structure. They're ignoring medical ships, considering them non-threats." He paused. "That's our only advantage right now." Before the Admiral could continue, the bunker around him shook violently. The connection became unstable. "Bailey, listen carefully," the Admiral said through static. "The Nightingale is now. Special operations. Use your medical status. Get close to their command ship if possible. Find a weakness." The transmission cut off abruptly. Jack stood still for a moment, considering the Admiral's partial orders. Then he turned to his crew. "It seems we have a new mission," he said, "one that only we can perform." In the medical bay, Samantha worked to save a civilian with severe burns when the ship's intercom activated. "Lieutenant Cruz, report to the bridge immediately," Jack's voice announced. Samantha finished applying a burn dressing. "Keep him stable," she told the nurse beside her. "I'll be back soon." When she arrived on the bridge, she found Jack, Alan, and Lisa huddled around a tactical display. The screen showed the positions of the alien fleet, with one larger vessel at the center. "We believe this is their command ship," Jack explained, pointing to the largest alien vessel, "and we're going to get on board." Samantha blinked in surprise. "How? We're a medical frigate, not an assault ship." Jack's eyes met hers. "That's exactly why it will work. The Admiral believes the Vicarians are ignoring medical vessels. They don't see us as a threat." Understanding dawned on Samantha's face. "You want to use our medical status to get close to them." Jack nodded. "We'll broadcast that we wish to offer medical assistance, even to our enemies. It's what any proper medical ship would do." "And once we're close enough?" she asked. "We improvise," Jack said with a slight smile. "But I'll need your combat medics ready. This mission will require both your healing skills and your other training." Samantha straightened her back. She had hoped never to need her combat training again, but Earth's survival was at stake. "My team will be ready, Commander," she promised. "The Vricarians are about to learn that human medics are unlike any they've encountered before." Samantha Cruz stood in the small gym of the Nightingale, watching as her medical team practiced combat moves they hadn't used in months. The room echoed with the sounds of their training. Controlled breathing, the thud of bodies hitting mats, the click of weapon parts being assembled and disassembled. "Remember your basics," she called out as she walked between the groups. "Medicine first, combat second, but both are essential." Her mind drifted back to her own training days. The memory was clear, as if it had happened yesterday instead of 7 years ago. It was a hot summer day at the United Earth Defense Force Academy. 20-year-old Samantha stood with 30 other medical students in a field, sweat running down their faces. Their instructor, an older woman with gray hair and scars on her arms, paced in front of them. "In the United Earth Defense Force, our medics are different," the instructor had said. 200 years ago, medics were protected in war. They wore symbols that told the enemy not to shoot them. They carried no weapons. The instructor had stopped and looked each student in the eye. "That changed when we met enemies who didn't follow those rules. Enemies who targeted medics first, knowing that without us, soldiers would die from their wounds." Young Samantha had raised her hand. "So we started arming medics." "Exactly. Today, every UEDF medic is also a soldier. You will learn to heal. You will learn to save lives. But you will also learn to fight, to protect your patients when needed." The memory faded as Samantha watched Nicole Peterson, one of her best trauma surgeons, perfectly take apart and reassemble a pulse rifle. Beside her, Daniel Garcia practiced hand-to-hand combat. The command center of the Nightingale was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers. Commander Jack Bailey, Lieutenant Samantha Cruz, and Engineer Alan Murphy stood around a holographic display of the Vricarian flagship. "Their ship is nearly 5 times larger than ours," Alan said, pointing to the display. "Based on our scans, their main control room is likely here, near the center." Jack studied the alien vessel's layout. "What about their security systems?" "Hard to tell," Alan replied, running a hand through his red hair. "But they seem to use some kind of energy field technology for internal security. Nothing we can't handle with the right tools." Samantha pointed to a section of the display. "These areas near the outer hull might be their medical facilities. If we're offering help, that's where they'd take us first." Jack nodded. "Good thinking. We'll need to move from there to somewhere we can do real damage." He looked at his 2 officers. "I won't lie to you. This is going to be dangerous. We might not all make it back." Samantha straightened her shoulders. "We all knew the risks when we joined, Commander." Alan tapped a few buttons, and the display changed to show the Nightingale. "I've been working on something that might help. If I can access their ship's systems, I could create a power surge that would disable their weapons temporarily." "How long would that give us?" Jack asked. "Maybe 10 minutes," Alan said. "Not long, but better than nothing." Jack considered the plan. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. Earth's major cities were being destroyed one by one. Millions had already died. They had to act now. "All right," Jack decided. "Cruz, select your best combat medics for the mission. No more than 6. We need to look like a genuine medical team, not an assault force. Murphy, prepare those technical surprises you mentioned. We'll move as soon as everyone is ready." As they left the command center, Jack stopped Samantha in the hallway. "There's something else we need to discuss, Lieutenant." Her brown eyes met his. "Sir, if this works, and we disable their flagship, Earth forces will immediately attack. We'll need to get out fast." He paused. "But if we can't get out, we need to make sure the Vricarians can't either." Understanding dawned on Samantha's face. "You're talking about a self-destruct option." Jack nodded grimly. As a last resort, Murphy is rigging something with our engine core. If we activate it, we'll have 5 minutes to evacuate before the Nightingale explodes, taking the Vricarian flagship with it. Samantha took a deep breath. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Agreed, Jack said. But hope isn't a strategy. We need to be prepared for every possibility. In the medical bay, Samantha gathered her team. Nicole Peterson, Daniel Garcia, Kevin Wright, Laura Simmons, and Ben Edwards. All were skilled doctors and nurses. All were also trained fighters. The mission is simple, Samantha explained. We go in as medical personnel offering assistance. We bring real medical supplies to maintain our cover. Once inside, we gather intelligence and find weaknesses we can exploit. And if we're discovered, Laura asked, checking her medical kit. Then we use our other skills, Samantha replied. We'll each carry concealed weapons, standard combat medic procedure. Help if you can, fight if you must. Daniel raised a concern. What about the Hippocratic Oath? First, do no harm. Samantha's face grew serious. I took that oath too. But right now, doing nothing would cause more harm. Sometimes the only way to save lives is to take action. The team nodded in understanding. They had all faced these difficult choices before. On the bridge, Lisa Grant monitored communications as the Nightingale drew closer to the Vricarian flagship. They're responding to our hail, she reported. They want to know our intentions again. Jack took a deep breath and activated the ship's communication system. This is Commander Bailey of the medical vessel Nightingale. We are unarmed and offer medical assistance to wounded on both sides. War or not, the treatment of the injured is a universal duty. There was a long pause. Jack exchanged worried glances with Lisa. Then the response came. Medical vessel Nightingale, you are permitted to dock at Connection Point 4. Any deviation from your stated purpose will result in immediate destruction. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Understood. Proceeding to Connection Point 4. As the Nightingale moved toward the massive alien flagship, Jack knew they had passed the first test. Now came the hard part, turning a desperate bluff into humanity's last chance for survival. The docking procedure made the Nightingale tremble slightly as it connected to the massive Vricarian flagship. Inside the medical ship's preparation room, Samantha and her team made their final checks. Remember, we're medics first, as far as they know, she reminded everyone as they adjusted their white uniforms with red cross symbols. Underneath, each wore thin body armor. Hidden in their medical kits were compact weapons alongside genuine medical supplies. Vital signs normal. Try to stay calm, Nicole said, checking her team's health monitors. Elevated heart rates might make them suspicious. Kevin secured small explosive devices that looked like medical patches into his kit. These are set to Alan's frequency. One press on his remote, and they'll create enough confusion for us to make our move. The ship's intercom activated with Jack's voice. Cruz, docking complete. Vricarian security is waiting for you at the airlock. Samantha took a deep breath. All right, everyone. Friendly faces, steady hands. Let's go. The airlock door slid open, revealing 3 tall Vricarian guards. Their purple skin contrasted with their dark armor, and each held a weapon similar to a rifle. Their 4 eyes blinked independently as they studied the human medical team. We are here to assist with any medical needs, Samantha said clearly, holding up empty hands to show she was unarmed. We've brought supplies and equipment. The lead guard spoke, his words translated by a device on his armor. Follow. No deviations. The human team was led through massive corridors with high ceilings. The Vricarian ship's interior was unlike anything they had seen before. The walls seemed to pulse with energy, and the lighting came from no visible source. Laura whispered to Samantha, "Their technology is years beyond ours." Samantha nodded slightly. That was precisely why their mission was so important. Earth could not win in a direct fight against such advanced weapons. They were brought to a large room filled with injured Vricarian soldiers. Unlike human medical facilities, there were no armed personnel here, only Vricarian doctors in long, flowing robes without any visible weapons. A Vricarian doctor approached them, eyeing the humans with suspicion. "You claim to know how to treat our kind." Samantha stepped forward confidently. "We've studied your physiology from scans. While there are differences, the basics of trauma care are similar. May I?" She gestured to an injured Vricarian nearby. After receiving a nod, Samantha approached the wounded alien. His arm had a deep burn, similar to those caused by Earth's energy weapons. Using her scanner, she examined the wound. "Copper-based blood, as we suspected," she said professionally. "The tissue damage is consistent with third-degree burns in humans. We can help with this." She opened her medical kit and began treatment, using genuine medical skill to clean and bandage the wound. The Vricarian doctor watched closely, his 4 eyes narrowing then widening in apparent surprise as the treatment proved effective. "Your methods are adequate," the Vricarian doctor admitted reluctantly. As Samantha's team spread out to treat other wounded, they casually placed their special medical patches in strategic locations around the medical bay. Ben managed to place one near what appeared to be a control panel, while Daniel attached another to an air vent. "We appreciate your allowing us to help," Samantha told the lead Vricarian doctor. "It's important to show that even in war, compassion can exist between species." The doctor made a dismissive gesture. "Your human sentiments are irrelevant. You are here because General Zathkor permitted it." "We would like to thank the general personally," Samantha suggested, "and offer to treat any of his personal staff who might be injured." The doctor seemed surprised by this request. "The general does not meet with medical personnel. That is not our place. On our world, medical officers often report directly to leadership," Samantha explained. "It helps us understand priorities and allocate resources effectively." The doctor considered this strange human custom, then pressed something on his wrist. After a brief conversation in the Vricarian language, he turned back to Samantha. "Unusual, but the general is curious about human ways. He will see your medical team briefly." Samantha nodded respectfully, hiding her excitement. "We are honored. Please lead the way." As the medical team gathered their supplies, they exchanged subtle glances. The most dangerous part of their mission was about to begin, but they had succeeded in the first step, gaining access to the heart of the enemy flagship. Kevin whispered to Samantha as they prepared to leave the medical bay. "All devices planted. Murphy can trigger them whenever we're ready." Samantha gave a nearly imperceptible nod. Everything was going according to plan. So far, the human medical team was led through long corridors deeper into the Vricarian flagship. Samantha noticed they were moving toward the center of the ship, exactly where they needed to go. Guards walked in front and behind them, but seemed relaxed. Clearly, they didn't view medical personnel as a threat. "Keep your eyes open for anything useful," Samantha whispered to her team as they walked. "Ship layout, weapon systems, control panels." Nicole moved closer to Samantha. "I've been counting security checkpoints. Much lighter than I expected." "They don't guard against medics," Daniel added quietly. "Just like we hoped." After passing through a large set of doors, they entered what appeared to be the command center of the ship. The room was vast, with glowing displays showing Earth from orbit. Vricarian officers moved about, monitoring battle information. At the center, on a raised platform, stood a Vricarian larger than the others. His uniform had more decorative elements, and the other aliens showed him clear deference. "General Zathkor," their guide announced, "the human medical team." The general turned all 4 of his eyes toward them. He was at least 7 feet tall, with shoulders twice as wide as a human's. His purple skin had darker markings that might have indicated rank or age. "So," he said, his voice deeper than the other Vricarians they had met, "you are the curious humans who offer medical assistance to those who conquered you." Samantha stepped forward with a respectful nod. "We believe that medical care transcends conflict, General. It is our duty to help the wounded, regardless of which side they fight for." Zathkor made a sound that might have been laughter. An interesting concept. In Vricarian culture, our healers stay far from battle and serve only our own kind. Different approaches to medicine, Samantha replied. We find that being close to the battlefield allows us to save more lives. The general walked around them, studying their white uniforms with the Red Cross symbol. Your dedication to healing is admirable. If foolish, it will not change the outcome of this war. What is the purpose of this war, General? Samantha asked, trying to keep him talking while her team subtly placed more of the disguised explosive devices around the command center. Why attack Earth? Zathkor waved a hand dismissively. Your planet has resources we desire. More importantly, the galaxy must learn that the Vricarian Empire takes what it wants. He gestured to a display showing burning cities on Earth. Your New York, your London, your Beijing, all in ruins. Soon, your resistance will end. Samantha's hands tightened into fists, but she kept her expression neutral. And after Earth is conquered, those who survive will serve the Empire, Zathkor stated simply. It is the natural order. The strong rule, the weak serve. Kevin had managed to place one of their devices near a main control panel. Laura and Ben were doing the same at other points around the room, all while pretending to observe the medical equipment the Vricarians used. We understand, General, Samantha said, noticing her team had finished their task. Thank you for allowing us this meeting. We should return to treating your wounded. Zathkor's upper eyes narrowed. One moment. Your behavior is unusual for medical personnel. Our intelligence suggested human medics do not engage with military leadership. A tense silence fell over the room. Samantha felt the mood shift as Vricarian officers began to look at them more carefully. General, one of the officers called out, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the human medical vessel. They appear to have powered up their engines. Zathkor's expression darkened. Scan these humans immediately. Samantha knew their cover was about to be blown. She looked at her team and gave the slightest nod. Their signal. Each team member reached for hidden communicators in their medical badges. Now, Murphy, Samantha said clearly. Aboard the Nightingale, Alan Murphy pressed a button on his console. Immediately, the small devices the medical team had planted throughout the flagship activated. Multiple explosions rocked the command center. Not large enough to cause serious damage to the massive ship, but perfectly placed to create chaos and disable key systems. Alarms blared as smoke filled the room. Vricarian officers rushed to their stations, trying to understand what was happening. In the confusion, Samantha and her team pulled their concealed weapons from their medical kits. They moved with practiced precision, taking defensive positions as the surprised Vricarians realized what was happening. General Zathkor roared in anger as he saw the medical team transform into combat-ready soldiers before his eyes. What treachery is this? Medics do not bear arms. Samantha aimed her weapon directly at him. Human ones do. That's something you. Chaos erupted in the Vricarian command center. The human medical team moved with practiced skill, using overturned consoles for cover as they fired at the confused alien soldiers. The Vricarians had been caught completely off guard. They had allowed a medical team deep into their flagship without proper security checks. Nicole Daniel, secure that exit, Samantha ordered as she fired her weapon at a Vricarian guard approaching from the left. Her shot hit the alien's shoulder, causing him to drop his weapon. General Zathkor bellowed orders to his troops, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. Kill the humans. All of them. Aboard the Nightingale, Commander Jack Bailey watched the situation unfold through the small cameras hidden in the medical team's badges. Murphy, what's the status of their weapon systems? He asked, his eyes fixed on the chaotic images from the command center. Alan typed rapidly on his console. The explosives have disabled their main power grid temporarily. Their weapons are offline, but backup systems will activate soon. We have maybe 7 minutes before they can fire on us. Jack nodded. Lisa, contact Earth Defense Command. Tell them it's time for the counterattack. All available ships should target the Vicarian fleet while their flagship is disabled. In the command center, Laura took a hit to her leg and fell behind a control panel. Ben quickly moved to her side, applying a pressure bandage from his medical kit even as he continued to fire with his other hand. "I'm still operational," Laura said through gritted teeth. "Just need a minute." The Vicarian soldiers were recovering from their initial shock. More of them poured into the command center, their weapons ready. The human team was outnumbered 20-1. Kevin tossed a smoke grenade into the center of the room, providing momentary cover. "We can't hold this position much longer." Samantha knew he was right. They had achieved their primary goal, disabling the flagship systems, but now they needed to get back to the Nightingale. She pressed her communication badge. "Bailey, we need extraction. Path to the docking bay is too hot." Jack's voice came through clearly despite the chaos. "Working on it. Murphy has found a maintenance tunnel that connects near your position. It should lead to a secondary docking area on level 3. Daniel fired a series of shots that took down 2 approaching Vicarians. "We need to move now, Lieutenant." Samantha looked across the room and spotted General Zathkor moving toward a secondary command console. If he reached it, he might be able to override the damage they had done. "Cover me," she ordered, then sprinted from her position toward the general. Zathkor saw her coming and turned to face her, drawing a weapon that looked like a curved blade. His 4 eyes narrowed with hatred. "You defile the sacred role of healers," he growled. "Vicarian medics would never bear arms." Samantha didn't slow down. "That's your weakness, not ours." She fired at him, but the general was surprisingly fast for his size. He dodged the shot and swung his blade at her. Samantha ducked under the swing and slammed the butt of her weapon into his midsection. The general grunted but didn't fall. Across the room, Nickel saw Samantha locked in combat with the Vicarian leader. She aimed carefully and fired, hitting one of the general's 4 arms. He roared in pain and stumbled backward. Samantha took advantage of the moment to kick the blade from his hand. "Now, General, about those surrender terms." Before she could finish, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered and alarms blared even louder. "Earth Defense Command has begun their attack," Kevin shouted over the noise. Multiple hits on the flagship's outer hull. The momentary distraction cost Samantha. General Zathkor lunged forward with his 3 good arms and grabbed her, lifting her off the ground. "You will die first, human healer," he snarled, his face inches from hers. Samantha struggled in his grip but couldn't break free. Just as the general's hands tightened around her throat, a precise shot hit him in the back. The general's grip loosened, and Samantha fell to the floor, gasping for air. Daniel stood across the room, his weapon still aimed at the general. "Medics protect each other too," he said. The general wasn't dead, but he was badly wounded. He staggered back, purple blood flowing from his injuries. His eyes showed not just pain but utter disbelief at what was happening. "We've found the access point to the maintenance tunnel," Ben called out, supporting the injured Laura as they moved toward a panel in the wall that Nickel had forced open. "We need to go now." Samantha looked at the wounded general one last time, then joined her team as they retreated into the narrow maintenance tunnel. Behind them, the sounds of battle continued as the Vicarian flagship took hit after hit from Earth's counterattack. The maintenance tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by the small lights on the medical team's badges. Samantha led the way, with Daniel helping Laura, whose leg wound made it difficult to walk. They could feel the Vicarian flagship shuddering around them as Earth's forces continued their attack. "How much farther?" Nickel asked, checking behind them for pursuers. Kevin consulted the small map Murphy had sent to their devices. "Another 100 meters to the secondary docking area." Samantha tapped her communication badge. "Bailey, we're approaching the extraction point. Is the Nightingale ready?" "We've moved to the secondary docking port," Jack's voice replied. "But we got problems. Vicarian ships have realized what's happening. They're converging on the flagship." Samantha increased her pace. "We're almost there. Be ready for immediate departure." The tunnel ended at a small hatch. Ben helped Samantha force it open, revealing a smaller docking area with various alien shuttles. Through the large viewport, they could see the Nightingale hovering nearby, its medical markings clear against the darkness of space. "There's our ride home," Samantha said, feeling a surge of hope. The team moved quickly toward the airlock connecting to their ship. They were halfway there when a voice boomed from behind them. "Humans." They turned to see General Zafkor standing in the doorway. He was wounded, purple blood staining his uniform, but still dangerous. Behind him were several armed Verkarian soldiers. "You will not escape," the general growled, raising his weapon. Samantha pushed her team toward the airlock. "Go, get to the ship." As the others rushed toward safety, Samantha and Daniel stayed behind, weapons raised. The Verkarians opened fire. Daniel took a hit to his shoulder, but remained standing. "Last chance, General," Samantha called out. "Order your fleet to withdraw from Earth." General Zafkor laughed despite his injuries. "The Verkarian Empire does not retreat, even with this flagship disabled. Our fleet will destroy your world." Samantha nodded to Daniel. Together, they fired at the ceiling above the Verkarians, causing debris to fall, and temporarily blocked the doorway. "That won't hold them long," Daniel said, clutching his wounded shoulder. They ran to the airlock where the rest of the team waited. Once everyone was through, Samantha sealed the door behind them. Inside the Nightingale, medical staff rushed to help the injured team members. "Everyone's aboard," Samantha reported as she reached the bridge. "We need to get out of here now." Jack didn't need to be told twice. "Murphy, get us clear of the flagship." "Lisa, tell Earth Defense Command we're coming home." The Nightingale detached from the Verkarian vessel and moved away quickly. Through the view screen, they could see the massive alien flagship, now listing to one side, parts of its hull breached from Earth's attack. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Nightingale. "Multiple Verkarian vessels approaching," Lisa warned. "They're targeting us specifically." Jack looked at Samantha. "They've figured out what we did. We can't outrun them." Alan said from his station, "Our engines are good, but not that good." Samantha watched as the Verkarian ships closed in. Then she noticed something on the tactical display. "Look, Earth ships are moving to intercept." On the screen, they saw Earth Defense Force vessels forming a protective barrier between the Nightingale and the approaching Verkarian ships. The battle was fierce, with energy weapons flashing across the void of space. Amid the chaos, they intercepted a transmission from the damaged Verkarian flagship. It was General Zafkor, broadcasting to the entire Verkarian fleet. "Retreat immediately," the general's voice commanded, filled with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "The humans defy all convention. Their medics are armed. Fall back to regroup and reassess. We were not prepared for this kind of warfare." The bridge crew of the Nightingale watched in amazement as the Verkarian ships began to withdraw, pulling back from Earth orbit. "They're actually retreating," Lisa said in disbelief. Jack smiled at Samantha. "Looks like your team just changed the course of the war." As the Nightingale flew back toward Earth, they received transmissions from around the world. The news spread quickly. The Verkarian fleet was leaving, their seemingly unstoppable advance halted by a medical ship and its unique crew. 6 weeks later, Samantha stood in a large hall in what remained of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters. The building showed signs of damage from the Verkarian attack, but like humanity itself, it remained standing. Commander Jack Bailey, now Admiral Bailey, addressed the assembled crowd. "The Verkarian Empire has formally withdrawn from Earth space. Their diplomats have initiated peace talks. They underestimated us, particularly our dedication to